Hi guys, happy Monday. Welcome back to another episode of Soulful Living with Megs. As always, it is so great to have you here back for a moment of connection with me. Hi, my beautiful friends. How are you doing today? Happy Monday. I hope that the past weekend, the past week has been just so fantastic for you, so fulfilled in all the areas that you hope it to be fulfilled in. And I'm just so excited to sit and talk with you today, as I always am every week, because talking with you and connecting with you makes me super happy and I just love it. So, yeah, I hope you're doing good and all the best things for this week come up for you. I have been excited for the past, probably since last Wednesday, to talk to you about today's episode. I've been thinking about it for the past little bit, and I had an interesting yet incredible and eye-opening experience last Wednesday when I went to my acupuncturist, and I honestly just couldn't wait to share it with you after the session. And I can't wait to get into it. Before we do, of course, I want to say that throughout today's episode, please take whatever resonates with you, leave the rest out. I understand that our opinions can be different, and if something just doesn't sit true with you and your heart and soul, then that's okay. You don't have to take that, but I hope something can. I hope that you feel less alone if you are feeling emotions like this as we discuss, or just to know that we humans experience different things at different levels, but at the exact same time, like, we're all here for the same purpose, to live our lives in the best way that we can. At least I hope that's our purpose. And I just wanted to shed light on some of the topics and opinions that, I have. And yeah, so just take whatever resonates with you. I'm not a doctor, as you guys know. I'm not licensed in Chinese medicines, in specifically with what we're talking about today. But of course, I actively do this myself in the different practices at times. And so it's just what I feel is sitting true with me. That may not match you. But before we get into this topic, I wanted to let you know of my past few days. My Saturday of this past weekend was so wonderful. I spent the morning taking my friend Sid's class at House Concepts. For those of you in Vancouver, I highly suggest you take her class. She's one of my favorite instructors, and that's not being like biased because she's my friend and my old roommate. Obviously, I love her, but she's actually an incredible instructor. She's body goals, and like the strength that she has is obviously something that I'm working toward. But her class feels like inviting and warm and just like no pressure. And I feel like sometimes in group classes or like high paced, like 50 minutes, you got to get things done, especially with like weights around and all this equipment. It can feel a bit intimidating. And I just like remember even one of the first classes I went to, it wasn't hers because she wasn't teaching at the time, but I felt super intimidated. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I felt as though everyone around me did. And I know that that's an incredibly normal experience, but anyway, I took her class in the morning. What a great start to my Saturday. I loved it. I felt so refreshed and reset afterward. It was freaking hard. Oh, speaking of, she just texted me. That is so funny. Anyway, such a great class. And then afterward, I went for breakfast with one of my friends that I met through dance. I meet a lot of my friends here through dance, but anyway, we went to our favorite breakfast spot. If you guys have not been to there in Kitsilano on West 4th, you should go. It's closing at the end of summer, which is just so sad because it's been there for 8 years. It's such good food. There's not an extensive menu, but I like that because sometimes, the choice overload can be overwhelming. But they have great food. They have great matcha. It's not ceremonial, but like surprisingly, one of my favorite matcha places to go when I'm not making it at home. And just the vibes in there are so cute. And, since they're closing at the end of summer, we're trying to go as much as we can. So we usually hit that spot. That was great. And then I hung out with my other dance friends, Brett, Han, and Shay. And we finally were able to get together, all four of us. It is just so hard to schedule four people with all different lives. Like, literally, we have such different schedules. It's so challenging, but so grateful that we were able to find time this weekend because it's been way too long. And I just love catching them up on my life. I love hearing about theirs. I love the chit chat. And it's just so fun. So we went to the beach and we just sat for a few hours, and it was so nice and refreshing. So I love them so much. And then today I'm going to be, you're listening to this Monday, this is the past Sunday, I'm going to be cleaning the house, I'm going to be meal prepping. I feel excited to make some different recipes. I really want to try to make my own miso soup because there's this sushi place near my house and they have the best miso soup. I've had miso before and I haven't really enjoyed it prior to this place, but now I'm obsessed with it and it's actually really good for you. I didn't realize how good miso soup is for you. So I'm going to try to make that myself today, which I'm so excited about. And then I have to like reorganize my living room because they're replacing my windows tomorrow, like Monday, Tuesday. And while I'm excited about that because we need new windows in this entire building, it's just so inconvenient to move all of my stuff in the center of my living room. I don't have enough space. So it'll be quite interesting to live like that for a couple days, but I mean, for new windows, I'm happy to do it. But that is the agenda for today. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a reset day because yesterday was busy, 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 and very like my social battery was going the whole time. But I mean, it was still really nice. Anyway, in terms of today's episode, I wanted to talk about why emotional release happens in our bodies, especially during acupuncture, and whether or not I feel you should try this type of holistic medicine or medicinal practice, if you will. And as I said at the beginning, I had an acupuncture appointment on Wednesday, and it was such a crazy experience, to which was different than any other acupuncture appointment that or session I've had, because I've had a handful of acupuncture appointments. And you guys know that I'm an advocate for feeling your feelings and not being ashamed to feel your feelings. I think it's so important to do so, and I think it's very strong-minded that you do share feelings and actually emote any emotions that come up. As someone who's very sensitive, I am used to crying, like a lot. But even though I cry, I do feel as though I store a lot of emotions in my body to a point where there is tension and stress. Because if I'm being honest with you guys, I cannot tell you a time where I haven't felt this type of tension in my body. And while that's associated with dance and the physical strain that I've been putting on my body since I was like 5 years old, I just feel as though ever since I was like a preteen and then up until now, my like going into late 20s, I've just had so much tension in my body and so much stress that I carry, which like is not good for me at all because stress is, I feel as though like a silent killer in a way in your body where it just like eats at you, and like stress is just truly not good for your physical and emotional well-being. It can make you very sick. It's not good for you. And I know I'm not alone in this. And so I wanted to share the experience that happened during my acupuncture session and why I feel emotional release is so important and why it could happen during a session, just to shed some light and also just remind you that, again, you're not alone in this and that your feelings are meant to be felt when they do come up. And it's usually a sign within your body that you do have to release something. So just as a little backstory, I initially booked a consult with this specific acupuncturist last year, but for ear seeding, because she did this, what have you, she did this service, that's the word I'm trying to find, just for ear seeds. And normally, when I have had acupuncture, that is when my acupuncturist puts ear seeds in. And for those of you who don't know what they are, ear seeds are kind of exactly how they sound. They're these like little balls or seeds of like metal, if you will, that act as pressure points for your ears. And a lot of holistic, like medicinal practices believe that your ears are a map to your entire body. There are so many like different nerve endings and points that correspond to different organs within your body and other things. I'm not a doctor, but that's what they believe, and it's to like maintain overall health. And my acupuncturist in Calgary, like I said, she'll put seeds in my ears, but after my session. And so I never had, an acupuncturist where I can just go and get that service done, which I thought was cool. And it just like aids in your overall healing, especially after sessions, which is good. So I initially went to my girl here in Vancouver for that last year. I think it was because I didn't have a lot of wiggle room left in my benefits. So I just like, that's really what I could afford. And I had realized during my vacation week before starting my new job a few weeks ago that I hadn't used my benefits for 2026 for acupuncture. So I decided to book a session. It was a good time to do so. It is always relaxing. And I have been going for the past like 2 weeks, or I guess like I go every 2 weeks. And my first session was good. I initially booked it for like a TMJ release because I have a very tight jaw and I feel like I clench at night. And it's just your jaw is a very common place to hold tension. And so, it's always relaxing to try to get that massaged and released as much as I can. And of course, while I was there, we ended up discussing my lifestyle, my sleeping habits, my diet, my bowel movements, all of those things. And she checked my tongue, which is a very common way that acupuncturists kind of look into your body as a whole. Every like medicinal person that I've been to, or like holistic practice, like my naturopath, my acupuncturist in Calgary, this one here, they always check my tongue. And she had noticed that I'm a very emotional person, which I agree. Obviously, this is true. And we're talking about that. And then we also agreed that during the session of the TMJ that we would hit a few points with respect to my headaches and my period cramps, which is always good. I'm not going to say no to that. And then our second session, which was on this past Wednesday, was focused on my TMJ again, but like headaches and period cramps. And then the needles, like I feel like this will happen to you regardless, but there are certain points that are more painful or like achy than others. And there were some that I absolutely felt, and then some that I just like didn't feel go in at all. And she mentioned we got to like my legs, which a lot of the points I think were for my period, but she mentioned she would do something specifically for my liver. And I don't think my liver's in the best state because I wake up every night, almost every night, usually at the same time, and I feel like that specific time is associated with like liver function and all of those things. And I feel like just in general our livers as humans aren't the best. I mean, I haven't looked into this much, but I do feel like tension and stress does affect your liver and all of those things. So anyway, the needles that she put in specifically for my liver were probably the most painful that I felt during that session almost instantly. And it was so interesting because after she put that first needle in, it went into my left leg and then she did my right leg. I do remember that. My entire body just had this like warm sensation over it. Like I felt from head to toe that I was heating up. And I've felt this way before when I did a Reiki session. My mom's partner is like very gifted in the spiritual sense where he can like feel a lot of things. And anyway, he's trained in Reiki, which is like a practice of energy. I don't know if it's like energy restoration or just like energy release where like somebody without even, I mean, they can physically touch different parts of your body, but if they just simply like place their hand hovering over certain parts, it's kind of like an energy exchange, or like I said, release. And I felt that same warm sensation when he hit a certain point in my body. I think it was like my lower body, my feet area. And like as soon as I felt that sensation, I just started crying. Very, very interesting. So, anyway, she puts this needle in. I feel this sensation of warm go throughout my body. Whereas earlier, I was feeling like quite comfortable. I wasn't too hot, I wasn't too cold, none of that. And almost instantly after that warm sensation, I started uncontrollably crying. It was so strange. And I feel like normally when I'm about to cry, you can feel it. It like kind of welts up in you. You like feel it rise to the top almost, and then you can release. But I had zero control over this response. And I had no idea my body would react like this because, the first session, I didn't cry. And then I've other acupuncture appointments that I've been to throughout my life, I've never cried. But yeah, it was very interesting. What I love about her is that she is a very, like, her energy matches my energy very well, and I feel very safe in the room. And so she provided that safe space for me to feel and release it. And there was just like no shame in crying, which was great. Yeah, so I let myself cry. She was like, please let it out. Like, this is good for you. It's your body releasing the toxins, all this and that. And then after she put the second needle in on my right leg, which surprisingly didn't hurt as bad, she left the room to let me relax and just like let the needle sit in there for a bit. And then after I cried, I like uncontrollably was laughing and like smiling, which was like kind of weird and again uncontrollable, but I felt this like release in my body for real, and it was the coolest thing. And maybe that's why I laughed, because like once I got my tears out, it was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Like now you can actually like chill and relax. I don't know. So anyway, I ended up thinking about this session for a few days, and it made me want to look up, is it normal to cry during acupuncture? And I found in researching that it's incredibly normal and one of the most common experiences and ways to actually emotionally release during or after a session. Because oftentimes, when your body is in a relaxed state during these sessions, the physical relaxation often results in an emotional relaxation as well, which makes sense. And stored tension in your emotional state does oftentimes get released, which can result in crying. And crying is an emotional regulation technique, a part of our healing. And actually letting tears flow in a session can help create better emotional balance, improved mental clarity, a deeper sense of peace and relaxation, which just sounds like music to my ears. And what I found super fascinating while researching is that Chinese medicine believes that emotions are viewed as physiological processes tied to circulation, organs, your nervous system, and emotional release often involves liver QI stagnation, which I didn't know what that meant, so I looked up what that was, and it's actually a pattern where the flow of vital energy, which is your QI, I don't know how to actually pronounce it, but I'll just say QI, through the liver becomes blocked. And so this pattern where your liver is blocked is associated with frustration, irritability, suppressed emotions. So it makes a lot of sense that my body at that time had an emotional release because she was specifically focused on the liver. Like she literally said, this is for your liver. And then I just friggin' had to cry. And while I try my best in my day-to-day not to suppress my emotions, I do know and I understand that I store tension, and sometimes I find myself easily frustrated, which I know I'm not alone in that feeling. And perhaps this is a result of my own traumas I've been through as a child, things that I'm working through actively in therapy, whether it's a result of societal pressure for especially women to act and be a certain way, where I feel like we are pressured to not be angry because it's an unhealthy, quote unquote, emotion to feel. And it's actually a very incredible, healthy emotion to feel because we need to feel anger. It's very healthy for our bodies to be angry. But I feel like women are pressured to not be mad. It's like, oh, you as a woman, you can't act that way. You can't be mad. It's not a good look. It's people I feel as though don't receive angry women in the same way that they receive angry men. This is like different side note, but it just reminds me of, if you're in a workplace, very corporate world, and there is a woman of power and she is speaking assertively, I feel as though she's often looked at oh, she's angry. She's frustrated. This is a negative approach. Whereas if a man was being assertive, it would be taken a lot differently. It's like, oh, he's in power. He's in charge. We need to respect him. So, anyway, that's a whole other thing, but definitely a part of maybe why I feel this way, subconsciously. There could be pressures of myself even for trying to solve problems and keep the environment around me, energetically stable for my own well-being and the well-being of others. Whatever it could be, my liver is obviously blocked and needed work. So that is why I released all of that emotion during that time, which I assume if we do it again, I will still release it because, one and done. It can't be fixed in that one session. This is years and years of stored trauma and emotional, feelings. And of course, I'm going to reference the articles that I read, the different websites that I'm quoting in the show notes below. But this specific website that I was looking at, I wanted to share verbatim what they said about emotional release and how it's tied to acupuncture. So it says, one thing acupuncture excels at is guiding people who are chronically on high alert back to a more stable physiological rhythm. When you shift from tension toward a parasympathetic recovery mode, which for those of you who aren't super familiar with the nervous system, you are in like fight or flight or rest and digest most of the time. And that is your parasympathetic or your sympathetic nervous system. And your sympathetic nervous system is tied to that fight or flight, I believe. And then the parasympathetic is that rest and digest where you can recover. Anyway, so this says, when you shift from tension toward a parasympathetic recovery mode, the body begins to allow softer emotions to surface. Tears are the quintessential form of this release. Many people cry on the treatment table not because they suddenly remembered a specific tragedy, but because the body finally offered them a safe window. It allows the fatigue, grievances, sadness, or even the unspoken relief that has been pinned down to flow briefly. The more you are used to holding it together, sleeping lightly, okay, yeah, I'm such a light sleeper, and using logic to serve your connection to your feelings, which I feel like I do sometimes too, the more likely you are to experience the sudden release when that window opens. I resonated with this section so much. I feel very heard in this. And like I said, while I am an advocate for emotional release and while I feel like I do it, I am tying a lot of it to a logical place. I sleep light. I feel like I have to be positive all the time. And when I'm negative or in a negative state or angry, I feel like I can't really receive it well myself because I don't maybe trust that it will be received well by others, which is, not good because I know that the people in my life will allow me to show up in any capacity in which I do so because I provide that for them. Anyway, very, very cool. Highly suggest you check out that article and read it fully. Of course, I'll tag it in the show notes. But it's such a cool explanation as to why our body does release this tension. And, when I went into my session on Wednesday with low energy because I hadn't slept that well the night before, I was tired, just like energetically, just like not fully there. I left the session like while I had quote unquote low energy, I think it was because I was actually more relaxed. And that night I ended up playing pitch and putt for, a couple hours. And I actually played the best I've ever played the other times that I went. I got like 5 pars, which is insane. Maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. 4 or 5 pars. Craziness. I feel like my swings were more consistent. It's not so much at the end because once we were getting to the last like 5 holes, pretty rough. But I think it was attributed to my body actually being relaxed for, a handful of hours. And I cannot wait for the next session. I'm so excited for it. I feel like every time I go, it just aids in my healing for my body. And whether you believe in holistic practice or not, I do feel like there is science tied behind this. I do feel like even just the feeling of the emotional release is a good sign to your body that, like, hey, this is working. And I hope that this episode gave you more insight as to why emotional release is so important. And, it allows your body and your nervous system to start to relax. It releases that tension in our body, which can result in easing physical pain. And it clears your mind for you to feel more focused and clear. Which is like, don't we want that? I want to function with a clear head all the time. I know it's not possible all the time, but like the more we aid in this type of healing and the emotional release aspect of it, the more clarity we will have on a day-to-day. And I feel like emotional release is a non-negotiable for humans, or I feel as though we should think of it in that way in order to feel and perform in the best state that we can. And so whether you decide to book a session now for yourself after listening to this, or you practice other relaxation techniques at home, if you stretch regularly, if you go to yoga, if you do sauna or cold plunges, there's benefits to both, whatever you do, allow your emotions to surface when they feel like coming up, because it's your body's way of getting out the toxins that it needs for better healing, for you to be in a better state mentally and physically. And I want that for your life. I want you to be performing at the best place that you can be and not feeling pain and being able to bounce back easier and quicker. And just know that there's no shame in feeling it. It's literally a physiological response that your body has to release something that's stored that no longer wants to be in your body. I recommend it so much. If you are living in the Vancouver area and you're interested to know who my acupuncturist is, please shoot me a DM and I will share her with you. She is wonderful. She is so knowledgeable, and she gave me some like great techniques that I can just do in my everyday, especially to help with my headaches, all of those things. And so I'm gonna, if you're interested in learning more, I can share that with you, but of course I'll share her contact with you. She's incredible, and I recommend acupuncture, and I feel like this year I'm committing more healing for myself. I'm actively going to chiro because I feel like I need to heal my body, and I'm going to acupuncture. I'm getting regular massages as much as I can, especially with my benefits, and it's all aiding in this. And yes, it's expensive. It's an investment in yourself, so I highly recommend you do these things, or at least one thing for yourself that is healing, that feels good for you. I want that for you. Anyway, I love you guys. Thank you for listening to today's episode. As always, it means so much to me, and I hope that your week is filled with endless opportunities of joy and love and light. I'm sending all of that incredible energy to you, so I hope that you feel it. And I cannot wait to talk to you in next Monday's episode. I will miss you until then, but yeah, can't wait to talk to you soon. Bye.